research from home. Darlene, are you on the call? Not hearing anything. I think for the sake of people that are hopping on at other times to catch certain meetings, we'll try to still keep with the same meeting times for the presenters. So we'll just take a break here unless Darlene hops on yet, and start our next talk at 3:40 with Danielle. Our last speaker, Darlene, we had a few technical difficulties. She should be good to go now, but we will be moving her to the end of the meeting at 4:40 so that she could still get her talk in. So our next speaker on the list is Danielle Galvin, and she's going to be talking about using citizen science to monitor for amphibian diseases and outbreaks across South Dakota. Danielle is a PhD student studying under Dr. Jake Kerby at the University of South Dakota. And her research focuses on amphibian diseases and their impact on amphibian physiology and behavior. Danielle?
Hi. All right. Is that working okay? Which screen do you guys see?
Not seeing anything yet for a shared screen.
How about now?
We're seeing, looks like you have to switch screens if you've got two screens up. Perfect.
Okay, now you can see it?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Just minimize everybody. Okay. All right. So my name is Danielle Galvin, and I am a second-year PhD student at the University of South Dakota, and my advisor is Dr. Jake Kerby. And today I will be talking about how we can use citizen science to monitor for amphibian disease outbreaks across South Dakota. So first of all, what is citizen science? Citizen science is a practice that has been utilized for decades in various different fields. It is especially prominent in ecology. Citizen scientists are amateur scientists and volunteers, which will submit observations and data to different citizen science applications and programs. Citizen science allows for increased collaboration with members of the public, and it provides an opportunity to increase science communication to explain different ideas to members of the public. There are many different citizen science programs. Some of the most popular include BioBlitzes, such as the SD in the Field BioBlitz held last summer in 2020 by South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, National Geographic's Field Scope program, as well as the National Audubon Society's annual Christmas bird count, just to name a few of the most popular programs. I am more specifically interested today in discussing citizen science and herpetology. So herpetology is the study of herpetofauna, which includes snakes, turtles, lizards, frogs, salamanders, things like that. There are many different programs that will provide training to citizen scientists all across the country and even all across the world. Some examples of these programs include Master Naturalist or Master Herpetologist courses, which typically have some sort of a small course fee associated with them, but there are many different organizations which will provide training. If you would like a free option, you can participate in FrogWatch USA, which the training is often provided through different zoos or even universities. If you would like to participate without undergoing any sort of training, it's actually pretty easy. There are lots of free, easy to use applications available to anybody with a smartphone, including iNaturalist and HerpMapper. You don't even necessarily need to submit all of your observations with an ID included. Other users are able to come in and verify your observations so that you can avoid misidentifications. These observations will automatically upload data, including time, date, and location. Researchers are then able to use this data for their own applications. Some of the many uses of citizen science data include species distribution modeling and even health monitoring for different populations. There are many different benefits for being involved with citizen science to members of the public. By getting involved, members of the public are able to increase their amount of experience with identifying wildlife and plants in their neighborhood and in the world. You will gain experience identifying individuals visually, by sound, and even just by looking at tracks left behind on your property. Many citizen science programs will also encourage getting outside and being active. Therefore, by participating, you can increase your physical activity and possibly even see different health benefits. One of the greatest things, though, about citizen science is that it can really be done from anywhere. As long as you're able to take a photograph or even just record audio, you can participate in citizen science. So even if you're just sitting at your kitchen table, looking out the window at your bird feeder, you can take a photo of those birds and submit it to different applications and programs. By participating in citizen science programs, you're also able to remain connected to science and the scientific process. In ecology, there are also quite a few different programs available, so there really is something for everybody. Whether you're interested in plants, birds, herpetofauna, entomology, or mammals, there is a citizen science project available for you. In addition to the many benefits for members of the public, there are also quite a few benefits to using citizen science for researchers. One of which is that there's typically little to no monetary cost associated with gathering your data via citizen science. As long as you create a verified account with applications such as iNaturalist or HerpMapper, you will have access to a lot of these different data. You can then utilize these citizen science observations to supplement your own data collection efforts. And by doing so, you can actually cover a much greater area and increase the overall amount of observations that you include in your own data sets. One of the greatest things, however, is that researchers are even able to create their own training programs. So by creating your own training program, you are able to focus your citizen scientists on a specific goal. You can also then teach specific techniques when it comes to photographing, recording video, or even just looking for these different observations. You can specify the techniques that you would like your citizen science researchers to use. By creating these training programs, researchers are also able to educate the public on different things going on in their lab and going on in the research world. So now I would like to talk about my idea for how we can utilize citizen science for amphibian disease monitoring here in South Dakota. Beginning this spring in 2021, I will be creating an online video series, which will feature training, and it will be hosted on my laboratory's website, dakotaherps.org. Features of this training include how to identify different amphibian species, both by sight and by listening to their vocalizations. I will also include information on how best to photograph these individuals so that they may be more easily identified, as well as how you don't even necessarily need to handle the individual to submit an observation. It's very easy to take a photo without having to hold the frogs. I will also include information on why this program exists and what I'm looking for with these observations. One thing that I will be looking for specifically are reports of mass die-off events. Mass die-off events occur when numerous individuals, in this case amphibians, all die at one location. Oftentimes, mass die-off events or mass mortality events are signs of amphibian disease outbreaks. Through this training, I will also include information on precautions to be aware of when gathering this data, both for your own personal safety and for the safety of the amphibians involved. I'll promote this training program across various social media platforms. By utilizing citizen science, I will then be able to supplement my own data collection and therefore increase my success in detecting and analyzing amphibian disease in South Dakota. So, why do I want to monitor for amphibian diseases? Well, most importantly, this is what I'm completing my own PhD research on. I would like to look at these citizen science observations and analyze them for presence and distribution data. I would like to then use this data to determine the effect of amphibian diseases on the populations here in South Dakota. One of the main reasons that I would like to use citizen science rather than just my own efforts is because amphibian disease outbreaks are typically episodic. So they'll pop up randomly throughout the year and are typically short-term events. Therefore, they require consistent effort in order to properly detect. This consistent effort can often be time, labor, and cost intensive. I can then mitigate this issue by utilizing citizen science to supplement my own data collection efforts. Amphibian diseases are major threats to amphibians all across the world. As we might know, amphibian populations all around the world are suffering declines for many different reasons. There are 3 different diseases which I will focus on for my own collection efforts. These include Randovirus, Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, or BD, and Batrachochytrium salamandrivorans, or bcell. So first of all, I will discuss Randovirus. Randovirus is a pathogen which will typically use fish, reptiles, and amphibians as a host. And although these 3 groups may all be used as hosts, typically the greatest mortality will be seen in larval amphibians or tadpoles, as you can see in this photo here. Once an individual is infected, Randovirus will attack the liver and kidneys. Some of the clinical symptoms of Randovirus infection include red coloration, as you can see here in this photo, hemorrhaging, loss of buoyancy, lethargy, and potentially even death. Although Randovirus infection does not always result in the death of an individual, it is associated with mass die-off events all across the world. Randovirus has been detected here in South Dakota. The second disease which I will discuss today is Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, or BD, also known as chytrid. This is a type of fungal pathogen which will commonly infect the skin of frogs and toads. By doing so, it can alter the water and salt balance, eventually leading to heart failure and possibly even death. Other clinical symptoms of BD infection include thickening of the skin, lethargy, red coloration, and eventually death. Similar to Randovirus, BD does not always result in the death of an individual, although it is associated with mass mortality events all around the world. BD has also been detected here in South Dakota. The third and final disease which I will discuss today is Batrachochytrium salamandrivorans, or bcell, another type of chytrid. This is also a fungal pathogen which tends to infect the skin of salamanders and newts. It behaves in a similar way as BD and will alter the water and salt balance within an individual, eventually leading to heart failure. Bcell is classified as an emerging disease. It was first discovered and characterized in 2013 in Europe. Since then, studies have shown that salamanders from both North America and Europe are the most susceptible to bcell infection and most susceptible to mortality induced by bcell. Bcell is also commonly associated with mass mortality events. Bcell has not yet been detected here in South Dakota. However, bcell behaves aggressively. Therefore, it's important to be monitoring for bcell presence here in South Dakota so that we can best be aware of the presence in our state, especially because the tiger salamander, a South Dakota native species, may be susceptible to bcell infection. There are many different benefits for using citizen science to monitor for amphibian disease outbreaks, greatest of which is that a much greater area can be covered. I'm only one person, and there are numerous different creeks, streams, wetlands, ponds, and water sources all across South Dakota. Therefore, it's not really feasible for me to visit all of these sites on my own and sample amphibians at each location. By utilizing citizen science, I can then increase the amount of observations that I have. I can then analyze a lot of these observations for different ideas, and I will specifically be looking for reports of mass die-off events. I will be looking for photos of symptomatic individuals, which may include that red coloration as you saw in the tadpole. And I will even be looking for photos of deformed individuals. Here is actually a photo of a tadpole that I found this last summer where it was beginning to grow a hand out of its chest. By analyzing observations for these 3 characteristics, I can then pull the location data from any observations fitting these descriptions, and then I can visit these locations and sample amphibians on my own. I can even collect deceased individuals and then take these back to the lab for a quantitative polymerase chain reaction analysis so that I can detect whether they had BD, bcell, or Randovirus at the time of death or at the time of sampling. All of these wonderful things and these wonderful benefits from citizen science mean that I can overall increase my success in locating diseases and detecting diseases here in South Dakota so that we can all be more aware of the threat posed by amphibian diseases here in our state. What questions do you have for me?
Thanks, Danielle. Not seeing. Oh, no, here's a question from Bruce Eichhorst in the chat. He was wondering when the last time a documented mass die-off occurred in South Dakota.
That's a good question. I'm actually not familiar. I've only been here for the last year, so I haven't seen any myself, and I'm not sure about any reports.
Any other questions for Danielle?
I'll ask a quick question. So is there any concern, chytrid fungus is one of these diseases, for example, that can be spread between water bodies by folks moving between water bodies. And so is there any concern in recruiting folks who maybe aren't trained in desterilizing, if you have citizen scientists who are, maybe really interested, really engaged, and they start going from one pond to the next looking for these, is there any concern that they could potentially spread disease?
Yeah, so that's definitely a concern. One of the things that I will highlight specifically in my videos is why that is a concern and why that is a risk and how to avoid it, and also like why it should be avoided. So that may include just avoiding handling the individual at all, or if you must handle it, I'll provide information on how you can then disinfect your hands or any equipment you may have used.
Awesome, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions out there? Doesn't sound like it. Well, thank you, Danielle. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate